The darkness continues.
Open your mind.
Dark Exodus. Dark Exodus. The protester. Dark Exodus. Open your mind.
You know.
Yeah, X.
You know.
Dark Exodus. You understand? Yeah, X.
You know.
You understand? Open your mind. Dark Exodus. Yeah, X.
You know.
You understand? Yeah, X. dark Exodus, dark Exodus, dark Exodus, dark Exodus.
And we are back. Bespoke. Welcome back to another edition of the Proper Thought Series right here on the old T.P.O.T. YouTube page. I'm your host, X, of course, but you knew that already. That's why your black asses are here. Tonight, we're going to be talking about our inheritance or the lack thereof. But we're going to be talking about inheritances tonight. And it's probably not what you think it is. Well, at least it's not going to be in the beginning. You might be a bit more on target as the stream moves along. But y'all know before we get started, I always start the stream off thanking you good folk for your likes, your shares, your views, your subs, and of course, your hard earned pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters, and 50-cent pieces. Because I realize, man, you don't have to do it. You don't have to watch these goddamn streams. You don't have to show up to them. You don't have to share them, like them, or sub to this channel. And you definitely don't have to drop your hard earned coins on this platform. But for some reason, you good folk choose to do so. Night after night, week after week, you are here when you could be anywhere, could be spending your Thursday night any damn where. But you've decided to spend it here with us. And it's appreciated, man, because I don't take you good folks lightly. I never have and I never will. You got my word on that. I'm humbled. I'm honored. I'm thankful and appreciative, man, of all you good folks, man. And I don't know if you believe me or not, but God damn it, I'm going to keep telling it to you until I convince your ass. All right? All right. So let's get at it. Um, and what's good, brothers? I see you up there, brother Stoic, brother LaShan, brother Little Rock is here, and brother E. Taylor. Tonight, man, we're going to talk about inheritance, right? Now, I know that when people first saw the thumbnail and the title, they might have thought that we were talking about things that we may have inherited from our parents. And we might get into that down the road. But what you often hear when people talk about inheriting something, it's not that often that people talk about inheriting money or inheriting a house or inheriting a trust fund or a business, right? When people usually start talking about inheritance, what are they talking about in us inheriting? They're talking about us inheriting some kind of trauma from slavery, from being brought here from Africa, from segregation, Jim Crow, and all this kind of stuff. Now, people will say that we have these quote unquote inherited traumas, right? So, if this trauma is inherited and we ourselves have not lived through this, because nobody listening here has ever been a slave. I'm pretty sure of that. Maybe your grandparents or your great grandparents were slaves, but your black ass wasn't. So if you're talking about inherited trauma, that you're saying that that trauma has been passed down to you or to us genetically, right? Or we picked it up because our great grandparents passed it to our grandparents, and then our grandparents passed it to our parents, and then our parents passed it to us. That's what you're saying when you're talking about this inherited trauma that people say we have. Now, me, I don't believe it. I'm not saying that it's not true, but I do not believe it. I don't believe I have. What's good, Brother Ralph? I see you up there, brother. I don't believe that I inherited trauma from my parents, whatever trauma they may have had, whatever trauma they may have gotten from their parents, and whatever trauma my grandparents might have gotten from my great grandparents. I just don't believe it. I don't believe we inherited something genetically from slavery. I don't believe we inherited something genetically from the way our ancestors were treated. Now, I believe that we've read books, we've heard the stories, we've seen the documentaries, we've all been to libraries. So, of course, we know, right? We know the history. We're familiar with the history. We know how black folks got here. We know what black folks went through in this country, right? We know this stuff. That is why I don't believe this so called inherited trauma. Because would we even be able to say that if we didn't have the knowledge of what we've been through? Because you don't know that when you're a kid, right? When you're born with pretty much a clean slate, all right? The things you learn from your parents, your siblings, the environment around you. So you learn these things. And by the time you're able to understand, to walk, talk, think on your own, take in information, absorb things that are new to you, that's when people start telling you things. And that's when people start teaching you things. And that's when you start learning things, right? So by the time you're, I don't know, say 6, 7, 8, you can be told these things. You can be told about slavery. You can be told about the history of black people. You can be told how we got here. You can be told about segregation and Jim Crow laws and prejudice and all that kind of shit. What's good, brother Perfect Black? I see you up there, man. You can be told all these things, right? As a child, you do inherit certain things from your parents, right? Your look, the way you look is genetic, right? There's no defeating genetics. You may have your dad's eyes, your mother's eyes. You may have your father's nose or your mother's nose. You may have your father's build. You may have your mother's skin complexion. What's good, brother A Truism? I see you up there, brother. So when you come out of the womb, when you fall out of mama's spunk box, you fall out with a lot of genetic information. You come right out looking like somebody, don't you? You come out looking like your pappy. You come out looking like your old mammy. You may come out looking like one of your brothers. That's all genetic. That's all genetic. It's biology. I've yet to see a baby come falling out singing slave songs. I've yet to see a baby fall out with a handful of cotton. I've yet to see a baby come out scared of white folks. I've yet to see a baby come out making motions to pick cotton. So these things are taught to you, right? Like I said, you're taught the history. Because if no one ever said anything to you, if no one ever gave you knowledge of self, is what they call it, if you're in the nation. If no one ever gave you knowledge of self, knowledge of the history of black folk, you wouldn't even know any of this shit. You wouldn't have any idea about what white people did to black people in this country. You wouldn't know that black people were brought from Africa. You wouldn't even know about slavery unless somebody taught you and told you about it, would you? You wouldn't know about segregation. You wouldn't know about redlining. You wouldn't know about Jim Crow laws. You wouldn't know about Rosa Parks. You wouldn't know about Martin Luther King. You wouldn't know about Malcolm X. You wouldn't know about colored and white bathrooms and water fountains. You wouldn't know, man, unless you were taught this shit. If you were born to a family and they decided not to send you to a public school or a private school, they decided to school you at home. And if they never taught you about these things I just mentioned, you would not know them unless one of your friends told you about it or you saw it on television or on the internet. But if they kept this information away from you, you wouldn't have any idea that black people were slaves. You wouldn't have any idea of, like I said, segregation. You wouldn't have any idea about discrimination or racism or bigotry or prejudice. You wouldn't. These are things that were taught to you. These are things you learned over the course of time. And see, this is why I don't believe in this whole inherited trauma thing. Of course, you can claim trauma. Of course, you can claim trauma about something that you're aware of. You can feign trauma, but you wouldn't be able to feign trauma about something unless you knew it happened, right? Especially if it's something that you yourself have not been through. But let's get past that. We'll go into this more later. What's good, brother Friedman? Yeah, inherited trauma is what they call it, brother Friedman. Inherited. We inherited this mind frame. We inherited the trials and tribulations and the agony of slavery. We inherited the the feelings that our forefathers had of Jim Crow. Yeah, it's all inherited. Now, of course, I don't believe it. I don't believe in that. I believe I inherited my looks from my old man. I believe I inherited my mom's eyes. I believe I inherited the way my facial hair grows from my parents. But I don't believe I inherited some trauma that they passed to me from their parents and from my great grandparents. I just don't believe it. And like I said before, whenever we talk about inheritance or inheriting something, it's always trauma. How often have you heard somebody get up here and talk to you about inherited money, inherited real estate, and inherited business, and inherited anything? Some inherited gold or silver or stocks or bonds. Nope. Nope. It's always trauma. It's as if we as black people, that's the only thing we can inherit, huh? It's trauma from our ancestors. You listen to some people talk, it's like they can feel the whip, feel the chains. They know the Negro spirituals that they used to sing out in the cotton fields. They know them just off of instinct. But why is that? Why is it that only trauma is what you hear about being inherited? Why? Is this our claim to fame? This inheritance of traumatic events? It's crazy because when I was younger, I guess I must have been about, I don't know, maybe 15 or 16. And my dad was telling me about this car accident he got in when he was a young man. Now, at the time, my dad was, I think he was like in his 50s at the time, or damn near in his 50s at the time. And he was telling me about a car accident that he had got into, like, I don't know, 20 years ago before I was born. Now, this is my dad. I didn't remember any of it. And he said he got hurt pretty bad. He said he had broke his leg, shattered his jaw. So, he got hurt pretty bad. But for some reason, I never felt it. For some reason, if he hadn't told me about that accident, I would never have known because it happened before I was born. I was like, I don't know, 14, 15 at the time. He told me it happened 20 years ago. So it happened while I was just a dirty thought in his mind. I wasn't even a sperm yet. I was just a dirty thought in the old man's mind. But he got hurt really bad. But for some reason, I never inherited the trauma from it. I wonder why. That's what I'm talking about. I never inherited the trauma from my dad getting hurt bad, but somehow you want me to believe that I inherited the trauma from some shit that happened 200 years ago? I mean, uh, and I know there are true believers who truly believe in this. and more power to them. But I don't believe it. What's good, brother Free Zone? I see you up there, brother. I don't believe it. Now, if you want to talk about inherited trauma, you have to look no further than your mama. Because, see, you inherited trauma when you was born to her black ass. As she broke broomsticks across your back, whooped you with racetracks, body slammed you, punched you with closed fist, kicked you, all kinds of shit, slapped the daylights out of you. That is your inherited trauma. Yeah, you inherited trauma because you had her as your damn mother. Yeah, that's your inherited trauma. But for some reason, we don't like to talk about that. For some reason, as Brother David Cowell used to say, we like to leapfrog over mama and go straight to slavery, white supremacy, Jim Crow. So how can it be that we inherited trauma from 200 years ago, but somehow we didn't inherit any trauma from this person who was raising us? Is it because we can blame that trauma on white folk? We can blame that trauma on this country, the history of this country, and how it treated black people? Is that why? Is that why? So, what is truly our inheritance? Because, like I said, you never hear about anything tangible that people have inherited, right? How often do you hear people get up here and talk about, they inherited some land or a house or some stocks or even vehicles, a farm? You don't hear about that. All you hear about is the inheriting of some bad shit happening, the inheriting of beatings, slavery, killings. And like I said, I mean, my dad got hurt really, really bad before I was born, and somehow I didn't feel it. I didn't inherit it. I wasn't scared to drive a car. I wasn't riding down the road and felt the pain from him breaking his leg or shattering his jaw. Never felt it. Never felt it. And guess what? I could not claim it because it's sort of the same thing, right? It's sort of like I could not say that I inherited the trauma of my father's accident if I never knew about it, right? If my pop never told me that he had got hurt real bad, I would have never known. I didn't go through it. I didn't feel it. I wasn't in a car. I didn't get hurt. I wasn't in the hospital. I wasn't alive then. If he had never told me that, I would have never known. And I kind of think the same way, man, about this inherited trauma shit. because you have people claiming to have inherited this trauma, but this is trauma that you wouldn't even have known existed if you weren't taught. We didn't learn about it somewhere, whether it be in school, at home, wherever. But what we do have a tendency to inherit is our family situation often. If you're raised by people who are living in poverty or below the poverty line, even, you have a tendency to end up in poverty yourself. And likewise, if you get raised by middle class people or upper middle class people or rich people, you have a tendency to kind of inherit that legacy, don't you? But people don't think that's important. People don't think that way. None of that matters, right? People will tell you that, it's the luck of the draw. It's the thing. But I want to show you something. Yeah, tonight, y'all, it's another show and tell night. I'm be showing y'all some shit tonight. A few videos here and there. So if you don't want to see any, now's the time to leave. But here we are. And this here is from the Brookings Institute. So yeah, it's the white man's data. But according to the white man's data, the inheritance of black poverty, it's all about the men, they say. It's all about the men. Now it says here, black Americans born poor are much less likely to move up the income ladder than those in other racial groups, especially whites. Why? Many factors are at work, including educational inequalities, neighborhood effects, workplace discrimination, parenting access to credit, rates of incarceration, and so on. Then it goes on to say, black men stuck in poverty, Chetty's test, latest, I should say. But gender is a big part of the story too, as detailed in a new paper from the Equality of Opportunity Project, Race and Economic Opportunity in the United States, and Intergenerational Perspective by Roz Chetty, Nathaniel Haddern, Maggie Jones, and Sonia Porter. As always, there's a huge amount of data and analysis in the newspaper, but the big finding is that the race gaps in the intergenerational mobility largely reflects the poor outcomes for black men. The report is another contribution to the growing literature showing that race gaps in the intergenerational persistence of poverty are in large part the result of poor outcomes for black men. Specifically, Chetty shows that black men born in low income households are much more likely to end up with a low individual income than black women, white women, and especially white men. Now let's stop there because what they're saying is what? They're saying that if you're a black man and you're poor, it's going to be harder for you to get out of poverty than, say, a poor black woman, a poor white woman, or a poor white man. Now, they go on to say They conclude based on the preceding analysis that the black-white intergenerational gap in individual income is substantial for men, but quite small for women. It is important to note, however, that this finding does not imply that the black-white gap in women's individual incomes will vanish with time. This is because black women continue to have substantially lower levels of household income than white women because they are less likely to be married and because black men earn less than white men. Now, in an attempt to estimate the impact of different marriage rates, Chetty calculates that the intergenerational mobility rates of black and white men raised in both single parent and married families and find little difference. As they conclude, parental marital status has little impact on intergenerational gaps. In a new paper published today, we examine the same question in different ways. See our larger, longer technical paper here and full results here. I guess I'll have to go to that at some point. We confirm that stark differences in upward earnings mobility for black men compared to both black women and whites. We also confirm that black women, despite their solid earnings mobility, have very low family income mobility. We then estimate the impact of racial differences in marriage rates by simulating higher marriage rates among black women. Like Chetty, we find no significant effects. Now it goes on to say black and white Americans on different starting blocks. Black and white children are born into very different economic circumstances. Almost half of black boys and girls are in households in the bottom fifth of our income distribution, compared to just over 1 in 10 of white children. And they show a graph here. And this graph says almost half of black youth grew up in the bottom quintile. Share of youth ages 14 to 16 with parents in each income quintile. Now you see here where they show black men, black women, white women. And you see the graphs here. The light blue indicates the bottom. The green indicates the second. The purple indicates the middle. The blue, the dark blue, indicates the fourth. And the red indicates the top. And I'll put this in the chat for you guys as well. Now it says here, share of youths from the bottom quintile who remain in the bottom quintile as adults. They say black men, I believe 54%. White men, 22%. Black women, 34%. White women, 29%. And what they're saying here, folks, is that these are the percentage of people who may have been born on within lower economic stature. They were in a lower socioeconomic station as children. And these are the percentages, according to the Brookings Institute, that remain in that pretty much same economic station as adults. Now it goes on to say black men and women have low family income mobility. This is the percentage of youth from the bottom quintile who remain in the bottom quintile of family income as adults. Here again, black men, white men, black women, white women. And we go down. Now, this is where I disagree with them here. Because they say lower marriage rates aren't hurting black mobility. I disagree. Why, they say? Various explanations could be given. The most obvious is that assuming marriages or cohabitation mostly occur within racial groups, black women's family position is damaged directly or indirectly by the poor outcomes for black men. In other words, because of them, because of us, they fucked up in the game because we can't do shit, according to the study. But if white women end up with white men, who in terms of their earnings are more than twice as likely to escape poverty as black men, their family income will be higher. Equally, if black women are more likely than white women to end up as single, they will also record a lower family income. We set out to model the impact of household formation by artificially equalizing the marriage rates of black women and white women. The results, of course, depend not just on whether they marry, but also whom they marry. In our simulation, we assume that the additional women who are married have a husband with the same economic characteristics as their brother. The intuition here is that most people are likely to marry someone with a broadly similar background as themselves. I don't know. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I mean, I guess that's kind of true. That's kind of true. Um, I think women have a tendency to marry up, though, right? Women usually want to marry up. All right. If she's poor and all the men around her are poor, I don't think she's necessarily looking to marry one of those poor guys. I could be wrong, but I don't necessarily believe this. I got a problem with some of the shit on the white man's data here. Some of this shit I disagree with, but doesn't mean it's not true just because I disagree with it. But the intuition here is that most people are likely to marry someone with a broadly similar background as themselves, and siblings, by definition, have an almost identical one. The result of this equal marriage rate simulation are as follows. Now they show another graph here. Simulating marriage does little to improve mobility for black women. Percentage of youth from the bottom quintile who remain in the bottom quintile if simulated family income. Once again, black men, 48%, white men, 28%, black women, 56%, white women, 36%. So we go down. And of course, it says help black men to help black families, as if we need fucking help from anybody. We don't need anybody's fucking help. We're not the ones asking for help. We're not. All right. We pretty much, man, take it on the chin, man, whatever we got going on in our life, man. And if we're a person that's gonna get out there and get it and do better, that's what we're gonna do. Likewise, if we're a person that's gonna sit on our ass and live in grandma's basement till we're 45, we're gonna do that too. But I'll read some of it anyway. Our results strongly echo those of the Chetty team. So what conclusions can be drawn? Chetty's team are blunt, writing that the key to closing income disparities for both black and white women is to close intergenerational gaps in income between black and white men. This is certainly one of the most important implications of both their study and our own. Breaking the cycle of intergenerational poverty for black Americans requires transformation in the economic outcomes for black men, particularly in terms of earnings. One important point here: the relationship between earnings and marriage runs in both directions. Married men tend, other things equal, to earn more. Let me read that again. Married men tend, all things equal, to earn more. One study of identical twins suggests that being married raises earnings by one fourth. That's 25%. So if you're a $50,000 earner, if you're married, you're probably more likely to be a $75,000 earner. Or no, 60, that would be 62,1250 earner, which is drastic. I mean, $13,000 more a year would make a difference, right? it would make a difference. But anyway, we continue. One important point here, the relationship between earnings and marriage runs in both directions. Married men tend, other things equal, to earn more. One study of identical twins suggests that being married raises earnings by 1/4. Married men may feel more responsibility to provide economically for their families and especially their children. Low marriage rates may therefore have some impact on earnings. It is also clear that the vast inequalities by race cannot be alleviated by upward mobility alone. Black girls are, relatively speaking, more likely to move out of poverty in terms of their own earnings. However, we should keep in mind that the sheer number of black children being raised in low income households in the first place, closing the race gaps in upward mobility, will require wholesale shifts in the economic outcomes, perhaps above all for men's earnings. Now, of course, y'all know I'm going to put this in the chat, this here white man's data, for y'all to see for yourselves. Don't just listen to me. Read it for your goddamn selves. Come to your own conclusions, folks. But I have another thing I want to show y'all because, like I said, this is another show and tell night. I don't have as many videos as I had last night. I mean, articles, but I have a few, and I want to share them with my folks. So here's this one. And this one here is not the white man's data. Yeah, this is not the white man's data. Because from what you see up here, this is from blackdemographics.com. So this is the black folk data. This is black folks data. And I want to show y'all something that's very interesting, right? And I was talking to my brother Nick Taylor today on the phone. And shout out to brother Nick Taylor. Shit, yeah, me and him chopped it down for a while today on the phone. And we were talking about this, man. We were talking about the poverty rates of people under different administrations, right? So you look at this here. You see black families in poverty, 2005 to 2018. From Bush to Obama to Trump. It says the Great Recession of 2008 caused an increase of poverty rate among African American families from its lowest point in 2008 up to over 24% in just 4 years. Black family poverty rates improved, lowered after 2012 during the Obama administration, and continued to improve during the beginning of the Trump administration. Now, as you see here, according to black demographics now, this ain't the white man's data. So don't be out there talking about, oh, that's the white man's data. Nope, it's not. It's the black man's data, God damn it. You see here, the Great Recession. George W. Bush was president at the time, right? Poverty rates, 22.8%. But it was dipping during Bush. You see here, dropping, and eventually dropped to 20.8%. And then, right at the beginning of the Obama administration, it sat at 23.3%. Or should I say, it jumped damn near 3 points. And it continued to climb, right? Climb. It plateaued at 24.2%. And then it dropped a point to 23%. And then it dropped to 20%. And then it got here. And here's Trump here, 18.5% at 2018. Now, of course, this is 2018. I mean, 4 years down the road, I couldn't get the damn information, god damn it, for now. So I'm sorry, y'all. Y'all gotta deal with that. Right? And like I said, me and Brother Taylor we were talking about this. And we were talking about how poverty was lower, under Trump than it was Obama, and that's a fact. Now, people will say no, but you're looking at the graph for yourself, man. All right. And we're talking about black families. Now, maybe if you want to include everybody, okay, when you talk about median poverty, everybody in the country, of course, the numbers are going to be different. But here we're talking about black families in poverty. Vote 18.5%. That's pretty low because we know poverty, especially for black people, usually hovers somewhere between 22, 23, 24%. All right. 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5 black folks live at the poverty line or below it. That's just a statistical fact. I know we don't like it. I know we say it's the white man's data and all this kind of shit, but those are facts, man. There's no denying it. But let's move down. According to the U.S. Census Bureau ACS study, see charts below, 23% of all African American men, women, and children live below the poverty level, compared to just 13% of all Americans. What's this shit here? Bullshit. Yeah, man. Damn it. Brother Perfect Black told me how to get rid of these goddamn things too. I done fucking forgot. He told me how to get them out of here. But anyway, we'll continue even though we got this shit blocking what we were trying to read. An even higher percentage, 33% of black children live in poverty compared to all children in America. The poverty rate for working age African Americans is just, I believe that's 10%. Yeah, man, it's fucking pop up, man. Blocking my shit. Out of here. I gotta call my man Perfect Black, man. He told me how to get rid of these shits too, man. I fucking forgot. Yeah, make it so they don't even pop up, Brother Truism. Now, 18%, not 10%, y'all. My bad. They say the poverty rate for working age African Americans is just under 20% ages between 18 and 64 years old. Poverty rates for black families vary rate based on the family type. While just under 19% of all black families live below the poverty level, only 7% of black married couples live in poverty. Now, that counters what we just read from the Brookings Institute, right? Because the Brookings Institute said marriage doesn't change economic mobility. But that's bullshit, right? Because you got 23% of black people living in poverty, right? It says 19% of all black families live below the poverty line, but only 7% of black married couples live in poverty, which is considerably lower than the 31% of black families headed by single women who live below the poverty line. The highest poverty rates, 39%, are for black families with children, which are headed by single black women. Once again, the highest poverty rates, 39%, are for black families, if you can call them that, with children, which are headed by single black women. This is significant considering more than half, 55% of all black families with children are headed by single women. So if 55% of all black families with children are headed by single women and 39% of black families with children are headed by single black women have the highest poverty rate, that is significant. That's very significant. The highest poverty rate, 39%, are for black families with children which are headed by single black women. More than half of all black families with children are headed by single women. But we know that already, don't we? We know that, right? Brother Little Rock knows it. He's been following me long enough. That's why he puts mama on there. But let us continue. Black poverty rates by family type compared to all USA. You can see here percentage of families in poverty, 18.5%. The dark blue indicating black folk, the light blue indicating all Americans. So let's go down this list. Percentage of families in poverty. Black, 18.5%. National average, 9.3%. With children under 18, 26.7% for black folk. National average, 15%. Married couple families, 6.7% black folk. Nationally, 4.7%. With children under 18, black folk, 8.7%. Nationally, 6.4%. Female with no spouse, 30.6%. Black, national average, 25.7%. With children under 18, 39.4%. National average, 35.1%. But we move down to another graph. And it's crazy because I've been saying graft. Y'all didn't even say nothing. Just let fucking X mispronounce words. Fuck it. Individuals compared to all of USA. Again, people in poverty, dark green, black, light green, national average, all USA. 22.5% black. National average, 13.1%. Under 18, black, 32.5%. National average, 18% even. 18 years and under and older, black, 19.1%. National average, 11.7%. Ages 18 to 64, black, 19.5%. National average, 12.3%. 65 years or older, black, 17%. National average, 9.4%. People in families, black, 19.8%. National average, 10.3%. So when it comes to black folks, we have a tendency to be at the bottom of shit a lot. And it sucks. I know it sucks, especially if you're one of those people. If you're one of those people who are on the sucky end of the graph, it's suckerific, I guess. It's sufferific, right? And the reason why I'm showing y'all this is because we're talking about inheritances tonight, right? And we're talking about Oh, good look on that damn shit. I didn't even know I got my damn shit on my phone on silent. Good look on that super chat. I mean Cash App, brothers. Hold up, let me pull it up. God damn it. Hold on, it is an Android. It is an Android. Good look on that damn super Cash App, brother Truism, brother Maurice, and brother Derek. Derek, Maurice, and brother Truism with the Cash Apps. I appreciate that, brothers. Gotta stop and do a coin drop, god damn it, before we move on. Because I think I'm gonna open this up, man, and talk about it a little bit. Wrong drop. I appreciate you dropping your hard-earned coins on this platform. Appreciate that, brothers. Y'all know I do. But let's go ahead and read this, man. The history of poverty in Black American families. Because, like I was saying, man, I mean, we talk about this inheritance, right? And what a lot of us, a significant amount of us inherit is fucking poverty. We inherit being at the bottom of the social economic fucking ladder. We are at the bottom of the financial mobility food chain, a lot of us. That's what we inherit. We inherit the fucking despair. We inherit the low income. We inherit the below basic lifestyle. And I think along with that comes all the things that come with it, right? If you're born in the throes of poverty, you're probably not getting the best education. You're probably not eating the best of food. You're probably not living in the best of environments. So, what you end up inheriting when you inherit poverty and all this other shit, you're inheriting all the symptoms that accompany it, right? The bad education, bullshit schools. You live around an environment where there's noise and shootings and murders and drugs. You probably live in some freaking place where it's infested with vermin and rats and roaches and mice and holes in the walls and insects all over the place. So you're inheriting a lot of bullshit. You're inheriting things that may have trauma, not just in the short term, but in the long term. Now, when you talk about inheriting trauma, I believe that that is it. You have to spend your whole young life living in some shitty neighborhood, in some shitty apartment, in some shitty part of town, going to shitty schools, growing up around shitty people, mainly your mother. Now, you talk about trauma. Can that be considered trauma? And you are inheriting that, right? especially if you get to be 5 and 6 and 7 years old and you're self-aware and you realize that you're living in some ran down shanty of a house or an apartment. You realize that there's days that you don't eat. You realize that you go to a school where it leaks when it rains. The books, the desk are falling apart. So you inherited this trauma. Why? Because see, if you're a kid and you realize that you're poor, that means that your mom was probably poor before she had you. I don't think her having you made her poor. It might have made her more poor, but if you realize that you're growing up in poverty, you become self-aware of your conditions. There's a pretty good chance mom was poor before she had you. So she birthed you right into the poverty. You inherited the poverty. Do y'all understand what I'm saying here? This is why I don't believe the whole inherited trauma thing. This is why. Because how did all that trauma from many, many years ago work its way down through our ancestors, grandparents, and parents and get to us? But the shit mom did to us, the environment mom had us in, the condition mom had us living in, up, that's irrelevant. That is irrelevant. But shit that happened 200 years ago is the reason why we're the way we are now. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. I just don't. But let's move on. The history of poverty in Black American families. The U.S. Census Bureau records historical poverty data among American families using the current population survey and annual social and economic supplements chart below. In 1967, about one third, 33.9% of all Black families lived below the poverty level, compared to only 11% of all families in America. By 1990, the disparity gap between the two remained virtually the same, despite a slight decrease in overall poverty rate for both population groups. During the decade of the 1990s, while the nation was experiencing an economic boom, the poverty rate of Black families dropped from 29% in 1990 to 19% in 2000, virtually cutting the disparity in half. The economic downturn in the decade from 2000 to 2010 caused the increase of Black family poverty rate to 24%. Since 2010, the Black family poverty rate began to decrease slightly, reaching 23% in 2014. However, the disparity has remained relatively unchanged since 2000. In 1967, more than half of Black families headed by single women lived below the national poverty level, compared to 33% of all families in America headed by single women. During the decade of the 1990s, the poverty rate of all families headed by Black single mothers dropped from 48% in 1990 to its lowest point, 34% in 2000. The economic downturn in the decade from 2000 to 2010 increased the black family's poverty rate to 39% by 2010. Since 2010, the black family poverty rate decreased slightly to 37% by 2014, although the actual disparity between black single mother families and all single mother families has always been lower than that between all family types. The adjustments, increases and decreases in disparity over the decades have been fairly similar. Now, here we go again with another chart. And as you can see, black families in the blue, all families in the green. You see where it was 1967, 33.9%, and it dipped, then it rose, then it dipped, then it rose, then it dipped in 2014. This is black families. The white families, it's pretty much remained the same. A slight dip, slight rise, slight dip, slight rise, pretty significant dip in 2000, but then it rose back pretty much to where it was in 1967. 11.4 in 1967, 11.6 in 2014. Now, it has dropped for black folks since 1967, 33.9% back then, 22.9% 2014. But here we are, some other numbers. Purple, black families with single female, all families with single female. Black families with single females, 56.3% in 1967. It dips in 75, dips in 1990, dips dramatically in 2000, and then it slowly rises, 2010, and then it dips a point 2014. All families in green, 33%, pretty much stayed where it was 1990. Pretty significant dip, 25.4% in 2000. And then it slowly rose, 31.7%. Then it eventually stops at 30.6%. Now, here's another chart. Black families living at or below the poverty level. Female householder, no husband, 1,401,342 in red. See that? Do you see that? 74% female householder, no husband. Married couple, 305,410, 16%. Male householder, no wife, 196,051 in the blue, 10%. Living above the poverty level, married couple, family, 3,692,220, 53%. 53% of married couple families live above the poverty level. Female householder, no husband, 2,636,550 in the red, 37%. Male householder, no wife, 691,198. But we have to make concessions because guess what? The amount of men who have custody of their children is definitely significantly lower than the amount of women with just children. But we go down to public assistance. African Americans in public assistance, cash assistance, 2.5%, supplemental securities, 7%, Section 8, 14.5%, Medicaid, 29.3%, food assistance, 30%, at least one program, 41%. And that's total. But if we go down to the chart where it breaks it down, let me I got to make this a little smaller, y'all, so I can get the whole graph in here. I blew it up so y'all can see it, but mostly because my ass blind. But here we go. Household participating in food stamps by race and ethnicity by total. White, 6.2 million. Black, 3.7 million. Hispanic, 3.1 million. Asian, 395,000. Native American, 204,000. Mixed race or other, 1.3 million. So what have we learned? What have we learned about our inheritance? And yeah, let me put this in there too, so y'all can go ahead and read it for yourselves. Don't just listen to me. Look at it, come to your own conclusions. Come to your own conclusion. Both. But yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and open it up. There's a few people in here. There's like 7 people in the chat. If you want to come through and discuss this here, want to discuss our inheritance, you know what to do. The email is properthought@yahoo.com. It's properthought, one word, no caps, at yahoo.com. Nick Rose, if you wish to come through and opine, give your opinion, talk your shit, disagree with what you've heard, any of that, this is the way to do it. So, what do y'all think? What do you think about our inheritance? Have we inherited nothing but problems? Have we inherited, many of us, nothing but poverty? Yeah, brother Omega Dreads. Have we inherited a bunch of debt? Or did we inherit all of that plus the trauma from hundreds of years ago? Is that in our DNA? Do we have dreams about slavery that we never endured? Do we have nightmares about being sprayed with water hoses and dogs attacking us? Do we have visions of being on a ship coming from Africa? Do we often drift back into zones where we can see ourselves picking cotton? Is that what it is? Is that the one thing that we all have in common? The fact that we can claim inherited trauma, that we can claim we still feel the pain of slavery, discrimination, Jim Crow, or is it just a bunch of BS? Because I say again, if you were never told or taught or read or someone explained these things to you, you wouldn't even know about them. So would you be claiming trauma about them then? And when do you start discovering this inherited trauma exactly? How old do you have to be? How old do you have to be before you realize you have this trauma? Did you feel this trauma when you're first born? Do you feel this trauma when you're 4 or 6, 8, 12, 14, 20, 30? When does it kick in? When does the trauma kick in? Because if it's inherited, it it should kick in infancy, right? When you're 2 and 3 and 4, you should just be crying all the time, right? Because you have these nightmares about being whipped. You have these nightmares about being hung, lynched. These nightmares about sitting on the back of the bus. The nightmares about drinking out of the colored water fountain. The nightmares of not being allowed to go in certain stores or the sundown towns or I want to know more about this inheritance, being that it seems that that's the only goddamn thing black people have a tendency to talk about what we're inheriting or what we've inherited. I want to know more about this inheritance. Is it worth anything? Can I trade it on the stock market? Can I invest it in cryptocurrency? Can I take it and spend it and buy a house? Can I take it and buy me a new truck or that ninja that I've always wanted? What is this inheritance worth? We know what it's worth. Nothing. It's worth nothing. It's worthless. All it does is give you a goddamn excuse for defending the pathology. And that's what people do, right? People take it and say, well, we got all this inherited trauma. That's why we do this. That's why we kill. That's why we rob. That's why we do all this bullshit. I don't believe it. I don't believe any of it. I just don't. Because if all this inherited trauma is going around with black people, how come it's not affecting all of us? Because when people say this kind of stuff, the first thing that I go to is, okay, fine, you're saying that this is a thing. So why don't I feel it? Why aren't I dealing with it? Why don't I suffer the effects of this, whatever you say this thing is? I'm a black man, been a black man a long time. So what keeps me from enduring whatever trauma, whether it be genetic, psychological, inherited. What keeps me from enduring it? Now, of course, people will tell you, oh, well, you are enduring it. You just don't realize it. Well, if I don't realize it, does it really matter all that much? It doesn't have me broke. It doesn't have me living in poverty. It doesn't have me starving. It didn't have my children starving. Doesn't have my wife starving, or even my dog for that matter. So if I don't know I'm enduring it, it can't be having that much of an effect on me, can it? Because if it was, I'd know it, right? I'd be feeling it. I'd be feeling it, wouldn't I? Unless I'm so, I don't know, caught up in my ways, or what do they say? Oh, you think white. Maybe so, but I refuse to believe that I've inherited some trauma from some shit that I've never lived through, that I've never seen except in books, that I've never felt. I don't believe in trauma from things that I just learned about. I go back to my old man telling me about getting hurt real bad. If he hadn't have said anything, I wouldn't even have known about it. So how could I claim trauma from it once I've known about it? That's like me right now saying, "Oh, I'm feeling the trauma from my old man's accident that he had." Like, let me see, at the time I was 15, and he said it had happened like 20 years before that. So you're talking something 55 years ago, 60 years ago. How on earth can I claim now to have inherited the trauma from my father's accident? An accident that I wasn't in, even though he's my dad. He's Pop Duke. He was a direct contributor to my genetic makeup, was he not? So, whatever traumas to be felt, you would think that I would feel the trauma of the person who actually contributed to my genetic makeup. But I've never felt it. Not one time before or after I learned of it. And I think that's what it comes down to, right? I just don't believe that you can claim these problems, these issues from some shit you've never endured. You just merely learned of it. I say again for a third time tonight, if no one had ever told you about any of this shit, you wouldn't be talking about some inherited trauma. Because if the trauma was real, no one would have to tell you about it, right? Like I said, you'd be having those nightmares of picking cotton, getting whipped, coming over here on the old wooden boat from Africa, being lynched. You'd have nightmares and all that shit about it, right? And you'd be wondering, damn, why do I feel this trauma? Because see, you were never told about it. You'd be like that kid, right? You'd be like that child, not knowing why you're going through all this stuff until somebody sit you down and say, well, come here, little Negro. Let me explain something to you. The reason why you're having these nightmares about being whipped and picking cotton and getting lynched and not being able to ride in the front of the bus is because you inherited this trauma, little Negro. You inherited this trauma because, I had it and I inherited it from my father and he inherited from his father. So now you've inherited, you know, sort of like your eye color and the shape of your face and nose. That is why you have these nightmares, little Negro, because you've inherited trauma from many, many years ago. And even as a kid, you'd be looking at your parent like, what? You'd be like, what? What do you mean, Dad? You mean to tell me I'm having these nightmares because of slavery from 200 years ago? Yes, son. That is what's going on with you. That's why you wake up in the middle of the night screaming. That is why you like cotton so much. That is why you always want to be near a field, a plantation, because you inherited trauma from me, like I inherited from my dad, and he inherited from his dad. But listen to how stupid that sounds. And people just don't. Because let me tell y'all something, man. I know that the history, we all know the history, right? We all black, we might have different interpretations of it, but we're all used to hearing the talking points. We all know about the history. We all know what happened to black folks. We all familiar with Jim Crow and redlining and prejudice and bigotry and lynching and civil rights laws and we are all familiar with that shit, man. We all know about it. I know people that get up here and act like, they telling you some new shit when they talk about it, but this is shit most of us already knew. Way before we got on YouTube. Way before we had a YouTube page. Way before we were in our 30s and 40s and 50s. So motherfuckers coming up here talking about this slavery shit and Jim Crow and all this prejudice and shit. Man, they're not sharing no news with you, man. They're not. They're not. Not sharing it. They breaking news. It's not like it come on. Dun, 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 dun. Breaking news. Black people used to be slaves. Dun, 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 dun. Breaking news. Black people used to get discriminated against. Dun, 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 dun. Breaking news. Black people couldn't ride in the front seat of the bus. I mean, this shit is not, you're not telling us nothing new, man. You're not. You may think you are, but you're not. What's good, brother New? I see you up there, brother. No breaking news, man. There's nothing new under the sun. There may be some new bells or whistles added to it, man, but a lot of the shit that we get up here and say, man, that many people have said it before. And it was said by a greater caliber of people than us. People who were more committed to black people than us. People who were willing to risk more than us. That's why it's hard for me to get up here, man, and listen to these people, man, always talk about the prejudice and the bigotry and the racism. Like that shit is new. All you doing is pointing out one goddamn incident of racism. Even if you pointing out 100, even if you point out 100 instances of racism, I just don't see it as news anymore. I used to, not anymore, not anymore. Because 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, guess what? Those things will still be happening. You'll still see prejudice. You'll still see bigotry. You'll still see discrimination. You're never going to see on the news one day, da-da-da-da, breaking news. Racism has been defeated. Racism is over. News flash. Racism, bigotry, prejudice, discrimination isn't going anywhere. It is here to stay. And I don't have a problem with people pointing it out. I don't. I don't. My problem is when people expect us to see things the same way they see it. They want us to inherit these traumas. They want us to inherit their view. They want us to inherit the despair. They want us to inherit the limits that are put on many of us. They want this to be our inheritance. They want us to inherit this view of ourselves that says we can't do this because we're black. We can't have this because we're black. We can't achieve this because we're black. And to me, that's just bullshit. That's just bullshit. Now, people will try to convince you that, yeah, you black, you can't do that. You black, you can't do this. White man gonna take it away from you. The white man can take it away from you the snap of his finger. To that I say, that's rather odd that I can achieve things in my life, and for the simple fact that I'm a black man, it can be taken away from me based on me being a black man. My shop could be shuttered because I'm black. My house can be taken because I'm black. The property that I own up north can be taken because I'm black. That would be the reason they would use. They would walk up with some documents and they would say, Xavier, we'll let you know that we're commandeering all your shit, everything you own. This house, that fucking house you got up north, that fucking garage, all your vehicles and all your fucking equipment. We're commandeering it, you nigger. And I'd be like, Why, Mr. White Man? Why? And they would say, we're doing it because you're black. And that's what the document would say on it, right? Reason for commandeering. The reason for commandeering Xavier's shit, it would just be being black. Being black. That would be the explanation. Being black. I mean, you listen to some of these people, man, and let me tell you something, man. I don't believe that they really believe that they've inherited, trauma from hundreds of years ago. I don't believe that they believe it. They probably believe that shit about an inkling more than I do, and I don't believe it at all. I think what they really believe, what they really believe is that the reason black people on a whole are the way they are is because of this inherited trauma. But they leave a part out because, see, not all black people are are in the same station in life. I mean, we don't all share the same station in life. Not all of us are, are homeless. Not all of us are living in poverty. Not all of us live below the poverty line. Not all of us are struggling. Not all of us are, screwed up in the game. Many of us have decent jobs, decent incomes. Many of us own our own businesses. We own homes and property, and we have investments. And so, what category does that put those people in? Those people who don't cry about struggle and poverty and how much black folks don't have, and what are they going through? Well, maybe they're suffering from that inherited trauma that they don't know about. Maybe that's what they're suffering from. They're suffering the trauma, but they don't realize it. Maybe that's what's happening to them. So maybe not realizing it is a good thing then, right? It's one of those things where, you know, what you don't know won't hurt you. If you don't know, you won't have these nightmares. You won't have these visions of being whipped in the middle of a cotton field. You won't have these visions of being chased through the swamps by the overseers. You won't have these visions of being married, and living in the barn, and the white master comes and takes your wife out and takes her around back and fucks her and send her back to you with semen dripping out of her. You would have those visions, would you? it go it goes back. I go back to my dad's accident again. I was a teenager by the time he told me about it. It happened before I was born. I never thought of it. I didn't get like a pain in my leg one day and say, damn, I must have inherited this damn pain from my old man somehow. I couldn't say that. I could I couldn't say that because I didn't know he had went through it. But if I if I had thought that way though, he would have sat me down, like I told y'all earlier, to be like, son, The reason why you keep having these pains in your leg and pains in your jaw is because about 5, 6 years before you were born, son, I was in a really bad accident, man. And I fucked my leg up and I shattered my jaw and shit like that. So, I passed that trauma down to you. And that's why your leg and shit be hurting and your jaw and shit be hurting. And I'd have been like, oh, now I understand, Pop. This is inherited trauma. So this is that inherited trauma they talk about. This must be it. This must be it. Oh shit. Oh, look at this here. Brother Friedman's journal said, after they take all your stuff, you'll need us. Is that what it is? Is that what it is, Brother Friedman? After they take all your stuff, you'll need us. But that would be more like wishful thinking, wouldn't it? Do they have to make you believe that, you're always under the gun, keep your head on a swivel because, the shit white folk get away with, you're not going to be able to get away with it, once you get your nigger moment and all that kind of shit. Me, I've been alive a while. I've been in my 50s. And I have nigger moments all the time. I've been having nigger moments ever since I was old enough to say the word nigger out of earshot of my parents. I've been called nigger so many times I don't even remember. And you know who I've been called nigger by? Other niggas. I've been called nigger more by black people than I could ever be called nigger by white people. Ever. I think I remember maybe once or twice in my life being called a nigger. And that's when I was younger, growing up in a really, really prejudiced part of town as a young guy. I remember it clearly too, man. We were it was me and my brother, and we were in the pizza shop, right? And we went into the pizza shop. We ordered two slices of pizza a piece. I'll never forget it. We ordered two slices of pizza a piece, right? And we paid for it, right? We paid for the pizza and we waited for it. They throw the pizza in and you wait for it. And while we were waiting for it, the guy who put the pizza in there, he left. He went, like to the back or whatever. And a lady came up. I guess she was an Italian lady or something. And another guy came up. And I guess the guy who came up, the different guy, I guess he had been told by the other guy that we had already paid for it. So, he takes the pizza out, he cuts it and puts it in a box and he hands it to us. And the lady's like, "What are you doing?" And, we're not paying no attention to it. We're like, "Fuck it, we know we done paid for it." So we grab the box. And when me and my brother go to grab the box, the fucking lady grabs the box. And she's like, "Oh, you didn't pay for this." And me and my brother are like, "Yes, we did." I'm like, "Go back there and ask the other guy. I mean, we did pay for this." And the guy that had gave us the pizza and put it in the box, he was like, "Yeah," he said they paid for it. And the fucking woman, she was like, "Oh no, I didn't see them pay for it." So I grabbed the box and snatched it out of her fucking hand and go to walk out. And she comes from around the corner, around the counter, chasing us. She was like, "Oh, you fucking niggas." She said, "You fucking niggas gotta steal pizza." And then during that exchange, the guy, I guess he was the owner or the boss or whatever, he came out. He was like, "What are you doing?" He was like, "They paid for this already." And she was like, "Oh," didn't apologize or nothing, you know. But we just kind of shrugged it off. We were young. I guess we were like a teenager at the time. I mean, the times that I've been called a nigga out loud by like non-black people, I actually remember. That's how few and far between those times were. And like I said, I grew up in a very, very prejudiced part of New York, man, in the suburbs. All right. The suburbs of New York, trust me, especially back in like the 80s, forget it. Forget it. Those are some of the most prejudiced places on earth. Prejudice in schools, prejudice wherever you went, where you walked. I mean, a lot of prejudice there. So I'm familiar with racism and bigotry, man. I'm very familiar with it. I grew up around it. Grew up around it. But then again, I didn't grow up in the hood. I didn't grow up in the hood. I went to school with a lot of white folks. We lived around white folks. I mean, I didn't grow up in the fucking hood, man. I just didn't. Just didn't. So I didn't have that, it's the white man's fault why I'm losing mind state. I didn't have that, it's the white man's fault why I can't get a job mind state. I didn't have that, it's the white man's fault. That's why I can't do nothing mind state. I say this all the time, man. You know, I was groomed to use that racism shit as a motivator. And the older I got, the less I thought about what other people thought of me. Because that's what I was always taught by my old man. And my old man is from the sticks. My old man is from Macon, Georgia. I was his first child born in New York. My older brothers and sisters, they were all born, down here in the South. I was his first child born in New York. And one thing he always taught me is, hey, man, you're always going to have people that don't like you just because you're you. And he said, you know what you do? You know what you say to that son? Fuck them. Because my old man, he didn't give a fuck about white people. He didn't give a shit about white folks, what they had to say. None of that shit. Because my old man, he had a business. My old man was a landscape architect. He had his business for 25 years. And let me tell you something. What he did for a living, the majority of black people couldn't even afford him. So when we went out and worked, who you think we were working for? We were working for Asians and whites primarily. Primarily. And my old man was a shrewd businessman. He didn't take no shit off of his customers and clients. And many a times when he didn't like what the fuck was going on, we would pack the fuck up and leave. He didn't give a fuck that they were white. I was raised by that guy. I saw my old man slap a white man before. I mean, slap the fire out of him. I couldn't have been no more than 9. And the reason he slapped the fire out of that white man is because the white man had uh, did him wrong on a business deal. And my father didn't say anything. He just told me, son, stay in the truck. And he got out the truck and he walked over about 100 yards, and the white man was standing out there. My old man didn't say anything. He just walked up and slapped the dog shit out of that white man. And like I said, I was a kid. I mean, you talking a long time ago. My old man slapped the shit out of that white man. And when he got back in the truck, he said, son, I'm sorry you had to see that. He said, but the reason why I did that, he said, because that dude fucked me out of money. And the next day at my father's shop, that same white man pulled up and he walked up and handed my father a handful of cash. I guess that's what he owed him or whatever. I mean, yeah, yeah, brother knew. Man, my old man, boy, his heart did not pump no Kool-Aid, man. Ah, man, I haven't heard that saying in so long. You know I'm stealing that shit, brother new. You don't remind me of some shit that I used to hear all the time. Yeah. My old man, boy, his heart did not pump no fucking Kool-Aid, boy. Let me tell you something, boy. I saw my father slap the shit out of a few dudes. I'm telling you. I've seen it. I've seen it more than once. More than once. I mean, especially when it came to his business. You didn't fuck my old man on his business, man. That's something you did not do. All right. When it came to my pop's business, man, you tried to fuck him over, man, you had problems, you know? And my old man, he used to carry that motherfucking 38. So yeah. Shit, man. You didn't wanna fuck around with my old man, boy. I'm telling you, didn't. Yeah, man. He didn't play that bullshit, man. Not when it came to his business and his money, boy. I'm telling you. He did not. I mean, I was raised by that dude. All right. I guess that's why I'm the way I am now. I mean, I don't give a fuck what white people think about me. I don't give a fuck what black people think about me. I really don't. You have a right to think whatever the fuck you want to think. But one thing I did inherit from my old man, I'm not going to allow motherfuckers to disrespect me. Absolutely not. You're only going to do that one time. That's it. You'll do it once. You'll never do it again. I'll never give you the opportunity to do it again. So I did inherit that. And I'm thankful for that. Because I grew up as a young boy watching a man operate like a man and not allowing motherfuckers to disrespect him, especially when it came to his money and his business and his family. I grew up watching that shit. You know? Yeah, man. One thing my father taught me, man, not to be afraid of no fucking body. Absolutely not. Be afraid of none of these Negroes or none of these crackers or none of these spits. None of anybody. Nobody. Fuck out of here. Afraid. Yeah, right. Afraid of what I might do to your ass if I lose control. I'm afraid of that. Yeah. I'm afraid of what I might just do if I lose control. Yeah. Shit, man. Heart don't pump no Kool-Aid, motherfuckers. Stole that shit from New. I forgot, man. We used to say that shit a lot too, brother New. Oh, my heart don't pump no Kool-Aid. Brother New done brought some old school shit back, boy. I'm be saying that shit all the time now, brother New. Be saying that shit all the fucking time. But yeah, man, I just wanted to get up here, man, and share this with y'all, man. I wasn't gonna make this long. I had actually only planned on this being like maybe an hour or so. And I just wanted to ask the question, man, what is our inheritance? What did we really inherit? What did we inherit besides trauma? Because guess what, man? When it comes to an inheritance, man, shit, you're only going to inherit some from your parents or your grandparents, or they might leave your house, leave some money, leave your life insurance policy, leave you some land, you know, but you inherit their lessons. You inherit their teachings, man. Like I tell my sons, one one day you will be me. Because see, I used to be you. I used to be you. And one day you shall be me, Negro. So that's what we inherit, man. Hopefully we inherit wisdom. We inherit patience. We inherit understanding. And we add nuances to it, right? We hope to treat our children better than we were treated. We hope to teach them more than we were taught. We hope to achieve greater things than our parents did. We hope to have more than they have. That's what we inherit, man. At least that's what I'd like to think we're supposed to inherit. Not inherit fucking trauma from 300 and 400 years ago. How the fuck would I want to inherit trauma from slavery? Trauma from being on a plantation? Trauma from Jim Crow? And why the fuck would I want to inherit any of that shit? Because if I'm going to claim that, that means I have sped past everything I was taught by my parents and by my grandparents. See, I never knew my great grandparents. They died before I was born. But I did know my grandparents, all of them, and my parents, my maternal grandmother and grandfather, my paternal grandmother and grandfather. I knew them. They taught me many, many things, man. And they were around up until shoot, my remaining grandparent didn't die until 2004. Yeah, 2004. I still had a grandparent. They taught me a lot. So I'd like to believe that I inherited good things. I inherited positive things. I inherited wisdom. I inherited learning how to parent. I inherited learning how to be a father. I inherited learning how to be a grandfather, which I am now. I have 6 grandchildren, man. And I would like to think, man, that I pass on not just to my kids, but to my grandkids. Not trauma, man, but triumph. They're like the main reasons why I do a lot of the stuff I do. And I tell them this. I don't just do this stuff for me. I do it for all of us, man. All of y'all belong to me. None of you Negroes would be here if I wasn't here. Maybe you would have been born to somebody else, but goddamn it, you wouldn't be born to me and you wouldn't have my damn last name, Negro. Yeah, I say this kind of shit to them. Can you imagine having me as your grandfather? You know you gotta be a you gotta be a really tough kid to be my grandkid. To be my damn grandkid, boy, you gotta yeah, man, you gotta be a really enduring kid to be X's grandkid, you know? I mean oh shit. You know? But yeah, man, like I said, man, I would like to think that my grandchildren and likewise my children. I mean, my children are grown. I mean, my youngest kid, man, is goddamn in the early 20s. So my children are grown. But my grandbabies, man, the last thing I want them walking around here saying is that they inherited some fucking trauma from slavery. Because a lot of things have went on in our family tree since then and now. And if the only thing you can fucking defer to is some shit that went on way before your ass was here, that means I didn't do my due diligence as your father or your grandfather. I fucked up along the way because the only thing you can say you inherited from our family is fucking trauma. The only thing you can say you inherited from our family is past abuses, past slights. If that's all you can say about the family you came from, the family you came from really fucked up because they allowed you to believe that this is your inheritance, not the lessons taught, not the blood, sweat, and tears that were dripped to make sure you had a decent life, not the sacrifice and compromise to make sure your life was better. None of that stuff matters. Skip over all of that. Go back to a time that you wouldn't even know of again if you weren't taught about it. And this is what you inherited. If that is what you believe, the people before you, they failed you, man. They failed you. Hey, what's good, brother Big Pontiac? I see you up there, man. They failed you if they say that's all you fucking inherited. Your inheritance should be more than that, man. Like I said, I don't want my grandkids to inherit trauma. I want them to inherit triumph. I want them to inherit victory, confidence, belief in themselves, belief in their abilities, belief that they can do whatever it is they can do if they're willing to put in the work and not to fucking make excuses just to pass it off on this quote unquote inherited trauma. But that's all, man. Think I'm gonna go ahead, man, and wrap it up. Um, like I said, man, I didn't even want this to be long, man. I thought this was only gonna be like an hour or so, man. Of course, I went to rambling. That's what happens when you're an old Negro, boy. You just ramble on and you can't stay on topic. You just ramble on and on and on, and you can't stop talking to save your damn life. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead. Um, Saturday we will be playing the ridiculous race game. Um, if you want to be a contestant on the ridiculous race game, go ahead, hit me up. Prophet of Thought at yahoo.com. That's Prophet of Thought, one word, no caps, at yahoo.com. I'm gonna I'm still waiting for some people to get back to me. I think I'm gonna do an all male ridiculous race game this week. All men. Usually we have a girl or two up there, white girl, black girl, This week, we're not gonna have any women this week. I want to do it with just men. It's gonna be all men this week, and maybe in another week or two we'll do one with all women. See how that goes. I know the last time we had women on it though, a cat fight broke out. So I know if I do it with all women, it's definitely gonna be at least two cat fights. So with that in mind, I have to I have to think it over. But yeah, man. We're gonna be playing it. We're gonna be playing it this week though, man. And we're gonna do it with all brothers. Ain't gonna be no women on here this week. We're gonna do it a little differently. Because I like mixing and matching. I like doing different setups and different combinations of people and different dynamics and different, I don't know, man. The reason why I do it is because I want to see how different people react. I want to hear how different people speak. I want to see how different people interact with other people. That's why I'm doing this. I like to see the ridiculousness of some of this racism and discrimination and bigotry and shit. All right. Because, like I always say, man, I know that this shit exists. All right. It's not news that racism is in America. It's not news that people are prejudiced. It's not it's not news that there's discriminatory policies in place. None of that shit is news. It's not. But the reason why we do the ridiculous race game is because some of this racism shit is just totally ridiculous. That is why we do it. But anyway, like I said, man, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. Man, I appreciate all of y'all coming out tonight. As always, man, you could have been anywhere on a Thursday night, man. You decided to be here. It is appreciated. Y'all know it is. You know, shout out to all the people, man, who decided to stick around and listen to me rant. You know, every now and then I need to go into a rant for some reason. I don't even know why. I don't even know why. But I need to go into a rant every now and then, you know? And oh shit, what the hell's going on? think my earphones just ran out of juice, y'all. Other ones. Luckily, I have the old spares over here. Let me see if these motherfuckers got any power. It's crazy because I actually like the ones I got on better. I think these are juiced up. I think. Let's see. Oh shit, they ain't saying nothing. They might be dead too. Oh yeah, they working. They're working. Let's see how much juice they got in them. Oh shit, they're fully charged. This. Come on. I don't know what's going on, man. I've been having problems with my audio shit, y'all. I think I need to update my fucking driver or something. Something's like I've been having goddamn audio problems with these fucking headphones. Especially these. Motherfucker ain't coming on. Like right now. Nothing. I mean nothing. I think it's time to update the old audio driver. They say they pairing. Something's going on. Shit. Let me try these again. Now it's saying that my other ones are on, which makes no damn sense. This shit is crazy, y'all. This shit is crazy. Now it's saying these are on. It's saying these motherfuckers are on. And it's saying they got 60% juice too. I think something's going on with my audio driver. Shit is crazy, y'all. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna clear this right on up out my goddamn cache. It's disconnected. Now it's saying it can't disconnect. How the fuck can it not disconnect? Yeah. It's saying can't disconnect. That's crazy. It won't even let me turn them off. It won't even let me disconnect. The fucking computer has its own mind, y'all. It's doing what it wants to fucking do. Let me go ahead and hit my troubleshooter. See what the fuck is happening here. It won't even let me fucking disconnect, man. Lady Anna, what's good? I see you up there, Lady Anna. Yeah, I'm having some audio shit, Lady Anna. I don't know what the fuck's going on here. We're gonna try updating the old driver. See if that happens. So y'all get to sit here and watch me fumble through my computer problems and shit. Y'all get to watch me fumble through them. because it wouldn't even let me disconnect the other ones. It let me disconnect from these, but it wouldn't let me disconnect from the ones I got on my head, which doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense. And these say they're still pairing. Fucking light. You know how that blue and red light flash and shit? It's still doing that. Okay. And that one went off. That pair went off. Because you know it go power off. Installing audio driver. Yeah, it wouldn't even let me fucking disconnect. Yeah, something's going on, man. I think my audio driver is going, y'all. From my output and shit. I think that's what's happening. Because it won't even let me disconnect. That shit is crazy. Now I'm not even getting the pairing. It's not saying pairing or nothing. Y'all know how these stupid Bluetooth headphones are, right? You know, it go power on, pairing. But this motherfucker here, it's got the cache blocked the fuck up, and it won't even let me remove the device or disconnect. And it's these. And these are my newer ones. I just got these like not too long ago, man. I got these. To replace these because these are starting to sound a little bad. But these are actually working better. The older ones. Let me see what it does now. And they won't pair. This is the one I was trying to pair. Nothing. Shit crazy, y'all. Shit is crazy. Doesn't make any sense. I don't know what the fuck is going on, y'all. My Bluetooth driver, something's fucked up. Let's see. Shit fucking up, y'all. Okay. Well, we have to go to the old standby. Old. Folks, this is X with another.
The darkness continues.
Open your mind.
Dark exodus. Dark exodus.
only from T.P.O.T